One. We are living in unprecedented times. No matter what industry you come from, we must all review, rethink, and reinvent ourselves. Are you an entrepreneur that is trying to adapt your business to the new norm? Well, you are listening to the 2020 Entrepreneur, a podcast that will motivate you and have you think outside of the box. My name is Hugo Almeida, and with over 30 years of being an entrepreneur, I am here to share and inspire you with my experiences and help invent a new you. Hello everybody, Hugo here with T20E World, and today I'm excited because we have a special guest from Pangea.app, who's our sponsor for this month, Adam Alpert, founder CEO of Pangea.app. Welcome, Adam. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm hanging in, Hugo. So happy to be here.
Oh,
Appreciate you having me
yeah,
and
man.
excited to have our conversation.
Oh, for sure. We're so excited. And thanks again for sponsoring T20E World in the month of January. I know we kicked off 2 great episodes in 2021. So now we're here with the founder, and we're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of Pangea.app, as well as dealing with rejection. Hot topic here, Adam. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a New York native who has now found himself living up in Rhode Island.
Okay.
My story really begins in 5th grade when I was diagnosed with ADD. I always had a really hard time focusing. I really had a hard time finding my thing. My attention was always darting around from one thing to the next thing. But in 6th grade for my birthday, my parents got me a video camera, and I was super excited about it. I remember breaking it outside the box and opening it up and powering up for the first time and just uncovering all the different features
Sure.
that were part of this thing. And, my friends came over that weekend and we started, just recording ourselves running around the house with Nerf guns. And I was just hooked. As soon as we had the camera hooked up into, a PC monitor, and we were just rolling on the floor laughing at ourselves. And I found my thing.
That's
And all
awesome.
through middle school, I was on, YouTube, learning how to use editing software and learning more about how to frame shots and how different shots sync together and you can create narrative arcs. And that passion ignited a fire in me,
That's
just
awesome.
working with, when you can have an idea for a shot, have an idea for something you can put together, and then being able to put it into action and create something out of it. It was so powerful. It was so powerful to me, especially when, in high school, I was producing content and they would show it at the morning meeting in front of 500 students. And when I got smiles at that audience, it was just one of the most satisfying
Totally.
things I'd ever seen in my life. And just to see how something that you can create can impact others, even in a small way as inspiring and creating smiles. I found my joy in life.
Yeah.
There's so much about film that I fell in love with, and that basically was my resume and my essay to college. And I applied early into Brown University.
Oh, good for
Got
you.
accepted, and I matriculated in 2013. Very, very lucky. And I was super excited to get into filmmaking and do film projects with other students, learn about it in classrooms. But after my first year, I had basically taken every single production class that they offered,
Yeah.
and I was like, and now what? And I was looking for opportunities outside the classroom. And, it was very serendipitous. If a student happened to know that I knew how to create films, they would hit me up. But I started looking and looking, and there was this massive gap I found, when I walked into the career center saying, hey, I'm a freelance videographer. How do I find opportunities? And they said, well, you can either find a full-time summer internship, which oftentimes didn't even pay or were hyper competitive. And,
That's right.
maybe at a big bank in New York, which, hey, they did pay, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. Or you can go work on an on-campus job. And I was like, well, neither of those things is exactly what I want to do. I ended up getting an on-campus job in the media services department where I would
Okay.
do lecture capture. And
Okay.
they would send me to classrooms and set up a camera on a tripod and click record
And
and
that
sit
was
there for
it.
90 minutes. And then that was it. But it paid well. It was like, I was making, $13, $14 an hour. And that was like pretty solid as a student. And that was kind of, where I was at and a bit of my story. And it was in that space probably around my sophomore year that Pangea really started to come into formation, at least in our heads, around solving problems for students who were looking for work opportunities and had skill sets that were untapped that we wanted people to do more of. For me, I was able to, bring so much focus into my film projects, even with the ADD, and it was because
Sure.
I found my joy, and I wanted to help other students find their joy as well, and work through whatever they were working through, and find that passion, and really flex that muscle.
Good for you, Adam. That's a great, great story. So I guess that's, what was it, sophomore, junior year where Pangea started evolving.
Yeah, so my co-founder John was my housemate junior year.
Okay.
And he was an applied mathematics student at the time. I had transitioned into studying history, and John, we were living together, and we were kind of already thinking about this idea of Pangea. And John was showing me something he had built, this really cool kind of planet that was floating around. He created at a hackathon. He was an incredibly brilliant engineer, and I started talking to him about this idea for Pangea, and what he saw in it was an opportunity to connect people, around something that they could do to create value for others.
Absolutely.
And he had never built an app before, and I said, do you want to do it? Do you want to be the CTO? And he said, give me a week. Let me figure out if I can even learn how to make an app, and then I'll give you my answer. And sure enough, he went, he did his due diligence on it, and he came back and says, I think I can do this.
Oh,
At
that's
least I want to
great.
try. So then we started working on it, and that would have been in 2016. And
Uh,
it's been a long journey since then. I mean, it's been around 5 years since we initially
I mean,
incorporated. So it's been a long journey.
yeah,
It's been a long
no,
journey from that initial
congratulations.
kind
I
of.
mean, yeah, I mean, listen, I use the app. I'm a Pangean now. We have actually incorporated, right? Some of your
Mhm.
Pangean people in our company.
Thank you.
We have Anthony Whitaker. He kind of heads up with Alyssa Coriali,
Mm,
our social media side of the house. And I'll tell you, we are,
smart kid.
oh, it's phenomenal. He's awesome.
He's got hustle.
He's got hustle. I love it. He's got passion, hustle. He's exactly what we need. And I'll tell you, it was an easy transition for us, right? To try something completely different. So we kind of,
Mm.
and I kind of like that, right? Everybody kind of knows me. I'm always thinking different ways outside of the box, the traditional way of hiring people and connecting. When we chatted early on and you kind of explained the Pangea app and how it works and how it does connect students. And I saw that massive database of students that I can select from. And it broke my heart not to be able to hire at least 4 or 5 of them, but for the time, at least we got somebody that was dead on, so that was just awesome. And I know now that you needed to, obviously you want to launch some idea, some concept, and you need to get funding. I'm assuming that's the next step, funding.
You tend to think it is, right? And I think that we really got moving on it. My co-founder and I graduated in 2017, and we got into an accelerator program through Brown that basically gave us funding for the summer.
Oh, that's
And it
awesome.
gave us kind of
Cool.
enough time to basically, hey, we're going to pay for rent for the summer this way. And, it allowed us to go to our parents and say, hey, John was getting looked at by recruiters by Palantir. I had offers to go do consulting in New York.
Yeah.
And neither of us, we saw an opportunity to try to do something that was going to have an impact. So we got into this accelerator and we got to work. And I think that when we finished the accelerator program in September, which is when we basically launched our first app, we thought that funding would come right away. I remember giving that presentation being, and we're raising, we're on the App Store today and we're raising $500,000. And it's crickets,
Yeah.
right? Because investors want to see validation. They want to see
Absolutely.
that you've proven something, especially when you're coming out of college, and there's a crowded space. And when we initially launched, it wasn't as honed. It was very different than what it is today. We kind of launched around concepts that was more aligned with Uber for everything. It was a splash of Uber, a
Yeah.
splash of DoorDash, a splash of Facebook Marketplace, Shopify. And we were just trying to do way too much, and when you try to do too much and you try to do something for everyone, you do nothing, and we launched that product. And over the course of I think it was the next like 18 months, we did like $80 in transaction volume or something super negligible. It
Sure.
was like it didn't even exist in the world. And, we were fundraising and stuff, and we kept getting rejections and stuff like that. Because John and I were so passionate around the problems we were trying to solve for
Sure.
ourselves, we just were so determined to keep going. And also because when we graduated, we chose to stay in Providence. And I know we'll come back to this later. The costs were pretty low.
Yeah.
We moved in together. We're paying a couple $100 a month in rent, and living expenses are so low. So we had this runway. And after the first year, we said, okay, 18 months, it's not quite working. We did a whole academic year, $80. We have to start to change something. And the first thing we started changing was initially we launched and it was just students helping out other students. We had this theory that, hey, students from RISD can work with students from Brown and can work with students from Johnson & Wales, and that was going to be the thing. But it was just too broad. It was too broad, and we were doing goods and services and all these different things. So going into the 2018 to 2019 academic year, we launched basically Pangea.app, Pangea V2. We
Okay.
rebranded as Pangea.app. And we opened up the buy side. That was a very big decision for us. We said, if we really want to help our students make money and start a business, right, their customers are not other students, is what we discovered. So we need to help them find customers. We didn't know who those customers were,
That's right.
right? Because we had students on the platform who were doing dog walking or were doing delivery services, or, we did have some kids who were doing photography and more of these freelancing kind of things. And then that semester, after we made that initial pivot in 2018, we did like almost $2,000 in transaction volume. So
Oh,
going
that's
from
cool.
$80 to $2,000
Okay.
was a big leap. Obviously, still $2,000 over the course of several months is nothing. Like we did $6,000 yesterday.
Yeah.
But at the time it was like, okay, it's something, but we didn't see it really working. And that was a really hard moment for us because we had kind of really hit. I remember that end of 2018 was like we hit a wall, and it was like this isn't going to work. And we gotten tons of projections from investors over the years, and we were getting, we weren't getting customers, and our users weren't really doing very much, and we just felt like we were a little bit lost. I remember literally going to the whiteboard and kind of stepping back and redrawing. And one of the things that we started doing a really good job of was talking with our users and talking with students in particular around what types of things that are they concerned about. And all of them were concerned about what they're going to do when they graduated and how are they going to build a resume and how are they going to make money. And the types of projects that were getting traction tended to be the web development things and things of that sort. And we as a company, as a small early stage startup with very little money in the bank, we were looking to build a team, but we were looking for part-timers who work
Sure.
for on an hourly wage and, on a contingency basis. And we wanted people who can grow into our team, college students, right? So when we were trying to basically hire students, we were going through their career centers and we weren't getting anything. If we ever heard back, it would take months to kind of get a posting up and get students that way. And most schools just rejected us just flat out because we didn't have a career
Interesting.
page, or we
Yeah,
didn't have
yeah.
a phone number, or we didn't have like an address that wasn't our home. Stuff like that you get
Yeah.
rejected from.
Yeah.
And we don't have a full-time recruiter, it's just me. So it dawned on us that maybe the thing that we should be building is something that helps students gain experience and connect them with not just anyone in the world, but specifically employers, and specifically employers who didn't have internship programs that were looking for people who could work with them part-time and grow into their team. And in 2019, that's what we launched with. We went through a big pivot. We rebuilt a freelance marketplace for hiring students. We got into another accelerator program called Mass Challenge, which was a very big deal for us and is an amazing program. And that's when we got our first clients. And I think in 2019, we did $20,000 in transaction volume. So we were on to something.
Yeah, definitely.
And almost all of that was in the last quarter when we basically relaunched that freelance marketplace. And then in the last year, we've done, close to $300,000 transaction volume.
Oh, that's great. Great. You tested the waters. You see it's working. You're tweaking. We always live by plan, do, check, plan, right? Plan it, implement it, review it, tweak it, plan it again, and just keep doing it. So good for you. That's a great, great story. And I would think that one of the challenges is a lot of the startups, right? Especially app companies, software companies, are in the California area, right? And you are starting something out of Rhode Island. Did you see that as being a challenge at all, or not really?
I mean, the obvious challenges are the ecosystem has a little bit less depth, right? You have a lot of other companies in Silicon Valley. You have more around you. You have Sand Hill Road. You have more investor capital. You get higher valuations. You still have that in the Bay Area.
Sure.
But it's also an echo chamber, right? And there's also a certain set of expectations and things of that sort. And you get a little bit more caught up, I think, in the raising VC money from really big names, as opposed to what really matters, which is your customers and your users and actual business. So starting a company outside the Bay Area and really kind of a city that is not seen as like startup central, right? And isn't necessarily one of the most up and coming startup cities, at least not yet. You're outside the echo chamber, right? It's like either you're going to build a business that people use or you're not, right? There's nothing to kind of fluff you up. You have to get it right. No one's going to write you a check for $1 million without serious traction. East Coast investors have different standards, and they look at your revenue and they look at a lot of other things that it's hard to raise as a Brown University grad with a pitch deck.
Yeah.
Different than, in Silicon Valley, you go to Stanford University and boom, they fund you. So it's a little bit challenging, but I think that breeds potentially higher quality companies. I mean, you look at a lot of companies that have come out of the East Coast. HubSpot are doing incredibly well.
Yeah,
Boston,
I agree.
Is really cool. And, Providence, you're close to Boston, you're close to New York. And both of those are really high class, up and coming in the last 5-10 years, startup cities. And I've had days where, I wake up, I go to Boston and I go to New York that evening,
Sure.
and I literally hit all 3 cities in a day. I've gone to New York and back in a day. You can do it, especially when you're fresh out of college and you have a lot of energy. There's a lot of reasons why I think building a company in Providence or at the very least outside the Bay Area is a good thing. And it's also just possible nowadays. I
It
mean,
is.
you can hop on an investor call with someone and it's just more efficient. And we've all gotten more comfortable with it as a result of the pandemic. And I think that, it's now widespread kind of belief in the startup community that you can build a startup anywhere and you don't have to be in the Valley. And there's this widespread rejection, seeing all these companies move to Texas, out of the Bay. It's too expensive, it's all the different stuff. Again, you still have a depth there that it's hard to replicate. But with now everything being remote, we're also comfortable. Why not
Oh,
start it in a city
totally.
where the quality of life is super high, the cost of living is super low, and you actually have the opportunity to shape and grow the ecosystem? I think one of the really exciting things about being satisfied and gratified in what we do is a win for Pangea is a win for Rhode Island, and it feels that way. It's a tight knit community. I
Cool.
know everyone here. They know me.
That's awesome.
And that kind of stuff lifts you up. I
Yeah.
have founders that are in the same shoes as me. There's 10 of us in the state.
Yeah.
They call me every
Yeah.
day. I call them.
Yeah, one of the things I really enjoyed of Pangea.app was it's fair game. It really is. It don't
Mhm.
matter if you're in Texas, California,
Mhm.
Nevada, you're going to pull talent from wherever it is at a Pangea.app. And I thought that was pretty awesome. I know that, and we had talked about this, about not allowing unpaid opportunities, right? Talk to me a little
Mhm.
bit about that.
Yeah, so this is something that we were kind of going back and forth with for a while. And ultimately, we had company, unpaid internships are such a big thing.
Yeah.
They're part of what's expected. But they're really problematic when you think about it, because only students who come from a certain background or privilege can afford to take time to work on something and not get paid
Paid.
to do it. Right. So like in New York in particular, in the entertainment industry, as an example, right, there's an expectation that you come up and you work, for Jimmy Fallon and everything's unpaid. Right.
Unpaid.
But
Yeah.
then it ends up becoming being an old white boys club,
Yeah.
because the only kids who can like take those internships and that's how you get the full-time job when you graduate are people who can afford to work the entire summer, right? Not get paid to do it, when everyone who is trying to come up in society has to go work at Starbucks. So they have to go work on, work study, they have to do on-campus job. And it's just super unfair. And there's a lot of inequity in the world,
Oh,
right? And
agreed. Yeah.
it's important to solve it. It's really important to solve that, to have a society that's pleasurable to live in for all of us. And so from our earliest days, one of the things that we wanted to do was create more equal access to economic opportunity.
Good for you.
And that to us was a big piece of the puzzle towards equality overall. And we felt that if people don't have the same access to economic opportunities to up level themselves, we're not doing a good job, right? So, and this really came to head, during the BLM movement this past summer.
Sure.
And it was like, no, what can we do to actually make a difference? And for us, the lowest hanging fruit was just killing unpaid internships. It was in the back of our head the entire
That's
time.
awesome.
And we said, you know what? This is not good for business.
It's a
It's not good for our
differentiator
students.
for Pangea.app as well. You know what? And it sets just a positive culture for the organization, not only for corporations that hire, but vice versa, right? For the students. I think that is great. So listen, to all our listeners at T20E World, we're going to continue to dig deeper here with Adam, but we have to give thanks to our sponsor. Are you a college student or recent graduate looking to land a job? Look no further. Pangea.app, a startup founded by two recent grads from Brown University, connecting students across the country with freelance projects that start part-time and can grow into full-time jobs. Get to work helping companies with their social media, websites, blogs, and products to make a real impact and make real money at the same time. Download for free at Pangea.app. That's Pangea.app. And start applying to remote roles at high-growth startups and e-commerce sites. Pangea.app, the first freelance marketplace built for students. All right, here we are back with Adam Alpert of Pangea.app, the founder, CEO of the company. And we are talking a little bit about the evolution of Pangea.app, as well as how he dealt with all the rejections to create and finally get to where he is today. Let's talk a little bit about competition. Okay, so you created this app, and let's face it, there's competitors out there. What is the biggest differentiator, between your company, Pangea.app, and say some of the other companies that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on exactly who we're talking with, right? So a lot of times, people say, hey, what's different than this in like an Upwork or a Fiverr,
Exactly.
any of the other freelance
Sure.
marketplaces, why work with a student when I can outsource this overseas, and when I think about it, it's like, hey, when you look at Google and Facebook and these larger tech companies, They run internship programs. They do the internship programs because they're an investment in the company's future.
Hmm.
That's their next full-time hire.
That's
And
right.
yes, these students work on real projects and they bring really fresh perspectives and they help bring new ideas for all these new product lines that the companies do. But it ends up being the lifeblood of the company. They need to be competitive when they hire, and therefore they need to plant seeds while students are still in school so that they can give them return offers so they join them, right? And left out of this equation are all the smaller companies that, can't run a full-time internship, right? Or they can't get even access to the students. And then they end up trying to compete with all these large tech companies who are just ruthless in how they're trying to hire students, right? Because they need the best talent. At the end of the
Absolutely.
day, that's what makes companies more competitive and successful. At least in the United States, it's not about cheap labor, right? It's about most innovative, creative, highest quality, highest cognitively function talent, right?
Sure.
That's what's always made America competitive, and that's what makes the big tech companies competitive. And yes, those people exist outside the United States who are very, very capable. And a lot of these companies now do a lot of, have offices overseas and all that
Sure.
kind of stuff because there's great talent pools elsewhere. But there's a reason why these large tech companies do internship programs. And what we want to do is basically bring access to that same quality of talent to companies who don't have internship programs. And when you look at it that way, you're not comparing it to a Fiverr or an Upwork, right? But in order to give those companies access to the students, you need to give them the functionality and convenience that you would find in an Upwork or a Fiverr. You need to make hiring someone take 3 days, not 3 months. You need to give them the ability to run payroll super seamlessly without having to go and do W-9s and do their own 1099 filings and pay for their own payroll service and all this kind of stuff, have their own time tracking system. Oftentimes it's the managing of students that's the biggest headache for the smallest companies. And that's actually one of the areas that we think we can have the biggest impact.
Yeah, you made it really smooth, even for our company. I mean, it was just a simple process. Obviously, we interviewed quite a bit of people from your pool of Pangeans, and like I said, I wish I could have had 5 of them. It was phenomenal, and I hope I can. I hope I can hire them, and go through Pangea.app, put them here to work in our social media marketing department. But
Mhm.
so let me ask you, how do you ensure the quality? And I'm also curious as the process. Say I'm a student, right?
Mhm.
How do I get the word out there? And what is the actual process for a student to connect with Pangea, that app?
Yeah, so students come into our ecosystem and they're able to create profiles.
Mm.
We view these profiles as like their homepage, as their resume.
Is there a charge
We
for
make
this or
applying.
no?
There's no charge to sign up. No.
Awesome.
Our business model is there's a percentage on the companies, and
Hmm.
then students keep at least 80% of their earnings, just
Okay.
like they would on Upwork or Fiverr.
Absolutely.
But they end up keeping more when they work with us as they would on Upwork or Fiverr.
Okay.
And we also have minimums that students have to earn, so you're not competing with $3 an hour labor overseas.
Got it.
It's very important. So students create their profile, makes applying to jobs super seamless. And then in terms of ensuring quality, we're excited for our new product release because the profiles are becoming much more robust and the employers are gonna have a lot more data when they're making decisions around who they want to chat with and how they kind of rank their candidates. We're introducing Zoom integration, so you can hop on a Zoom call with the student before you hire them.
Okay.
And a lot of our most successful employers actually, will have the student work on a project, right? So our platform enables project work, it enables freelance work. So you can hire someone very simply to do a couple hours of work with you on our platform. Everything's contractually safe, and you can actually see the kind of work that the student can produce. And I think that that's one of the really important things about what we're building is giving the students a chance to demonstrate their capabilities to employers, right? And
No
it's
doubt.
critical because that's how you can reduce the time to hire from 3 months to 3 days. And we
Listen,
have a lot
you're
of ideas around this that I'm going to keep close to my chest for
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Listen, you're also opening up the door, giving the student the opportunity to get their foot inside. The rest is up to
mhm,
them.
mhm.
That's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about, I know there was like a top emerging talent program. Yeah,
Yes.
talk to
So
me
this
about
this
that.
is this is also related to the quality, right? I mean, we have now more than 10,000 students in our ecosystem.
Oh,
And
awesome.
it's very hard for a lot of our employers to parse through,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
there's certain students, there's kind of two pools of students that come into our ecosystem. There's those that are, maybe underclassmen who've just never held an internship before and, don't know a lot of professional ethics. And, we do a lot of work to support them. And we'll talk about Academy in a couple minutes here.
Hmm.
But there's also the students that come in and maybe they have, had a summer job before. They've gotten an internship, or maybe they've worked on a personal project that's really impressive to us. So what we've started doing is looking at every single student who signs up on the platform, and we invite them to apply to the Top Emerging Talent program. And what we do is we actually manually review all these applications. We look at all of the most promising ones, and then we actually do video interviews with those students. And then every 3 months, we launch a new batch of students that are basically finalists or winners or selected in the top emerging talent. They become a
Okay.
part of a class together. And then we make those students accessible to a lot of our most promising companies. So that's what the top emerging talent program is. And we've seen a lot of success with it so far.
Yeah, that's
We just
phenomenal.
released our first class, 205 students,
Oh,
and we've already accepted applications to the spring 21 class. So any students out there who are interested, go check out our website and look for the subheader Top Emerging Talent, and you can apply tonight. And we'll look at your application, and we're excited to start accepting people into our spring batch.
phenomenal. What about companies? How you getting the word out to these corporations to kind of know Pangea, that app is out there?
The really cool thing is that 70% of our clients came through word of mouth. So a lot of our clients are very happy with the students that they found. And a lot of our clients tend to be connected with other founders and other small business owners. And when they talk about their team, like I said, I have my 10 founders in Rhode Island that I talk to every single night. And, we all deal with the same problems. So when that comes around, like, I need to hire a designer, I need to
Yeah.
hire a freelancer, and if we have someone that found Pangea already and had success with it, they become mavens for us. They become advocates for us, and that's what drives us, right? It's that really high retention on the client side and make sure that their experience is 11 stars out of 5 stars, as Brian Chesky likes to put it.
I
We
love
want to
it.
make sure that every experience is great. And I think we have a lot of room for improvement, but that's what we strive for.
Uh,
So a lot of word of mouth. And then we have some partnerships with some accelerator programs where we're able to source some companies in these, programs, and they're getting a lot of support themselves. So that's been a
Absolutely.
really fruitful avenue and pipeline for us.
I mean, it's phenomenal. You could help, you could assist all these universities right now that are being challenged with the recruitment process, right? Every major university across the country right now, with what happened with the pandemic last year, it was challenging. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so the student junior year, and I remember this, right? Obviously, my son just came out of Penn State last year, and same thing. Junior year, you start dealing and meeting and trying to apply for internship programs with all these universities. You go through recruitments, in the cafeteria, wherever it may be. That just went right out the window last year. So this is like a beautiful opportunity for you to kind of continue that linkage, right, between a corporation and the students. Did you guys actually see a spike last year due to the pandemic?
Yeah, we saw a massive spike. We kind of had a chicken and an egg problem going into last year. And we were so small, and it's when you're building a marketplace, it's
Sure.
like, hey, how do I get a student to sign up if I don't have a company posting a job? And how do I get a company to post a job if I don't have a student there?
Absolutely.
And to solve that, initially it was like, John and I would go and we'd get a table set up outside of RISD, and we'd get kids, we have, 50 rubber ducks lined up and then get the kids looking, we get their attention, and we get them to download the app in front of us. And then when they signed up, we'd give them a duck. And it was great because it helped them understand us. It helped us talk to students. And then it actually helped us understand their experience with the product when they were signing up. But with the pandemic, we saw a really big acceleration in the space that we're in, right? I mean, too many students lost their summer internships this summer. And all at once, all these
Oh, yeah.
students were looking for jobs. And there's been a couple of companies in our space that kind of sprouted up, in the university recruitment space. And I think that we have a really unique approach, the
Yeah.
fact that we're a freelance marketplace, and we're really committed to that. And so we had, all of a sudden we had all the supply in the world. And then it became a lot around how do we make sure we find them all jobs?
Yeah.
We want to fulfill, and that's, a challenge
Yeah.
for us,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
You
absolutely.
need 10,000 students, you need 10,000 jobs, right?
Yeah.
And so we're not there, but we aspire to. We want to find every student who signs up get a job. So we need to,
Awesome.
we started shifting our energy into, how do we acquire the right kind of companies? What are the right kind of projects? How do we ensure that every project gets posted, gets filled, that all those matches are high quality and they're lasting, and that company's happy? Because when they're happy, they come back and they post 3 more.
Absolutely.
And they tell their 2 of their friends to come sign up too.
So let me ask you, Adam. Let me ask you. Give me a quick message to corporations right now, because a lot of the people that follow T20E World are also executives now out of corporations. I'm an ex-corporate America guy, and how do we attract these companies? How do we attract the Fortune 100, the Fortune 500 corporations?
They have a lot. So we talk a lot about, Fortune 100, Fortune 500. We have plans for and a good beat on, the type of product that they would want. And they might have use for what we have today, but I think the product they want is different than what we have today. And we have an angle to get there.
Okay.
A lot of what we built around today is who we call the Fortune 5. All of the other university recruitment products are all going after the same 500 companies and their recruiters and
Good.
annual licenses that cost 50 grand. But we can't drop 50 grand on an annual subscription. No, come on. Like, that's insane.
That's a great point.
So we see a massive blue ocean of companies, and I'm sure there's a lot of founders who listen to this podcast who, want to grow their businesses and want to have the best talent, but you can't drop 50 grand to get the enterprise version of Handshake your way up, right? You need to find a
No
way, but
doubt.
how do you get to top talent? So we're trying to unlock talent for the Fortune 5 million companies.
I love it.
We believe by doing that, we'll be able to also move up market too, but we want to serve both markets.
Oh, that's awesome,
Yeah.
Adam. No, that's a great point. Listen, before we wrap up, talk to me a little bit about, and I have participated this month in the Pangea Academy. I thought it was a great program. I know Nadir's been heading that, and a phenomenal job, by the way, and very, very informative information. But talk to me a little about, the thoughts behind launching Pangea Academy.
That's great. I'm so happy that you're participating.
Oh yeah,
I'm super
man!
excited for everyone in Academy to hear these podcasts. Couple of thoughts that kind of have come together in order to form Academy. The piece that I talked about before, we have two segments of students. We have the students who come in, the Anthonys that are they're ready for it. We know that we can connect with an employer and they're going to do a great job. And we want to help those kids find jobs as soon as they can because we know they're going to make a great impression and that's going to create more opportunities for everyone else in the ecosystem. But we have all these students who just have so much potential, right? I mean, you have students, they're raw talent. It's you step on the shores of Pangea and you stick your hands in the sand and you pull up this rough gemstone. It's a little dirty. It's rough around the edges. And too many companies say, it's not pretty enough.
You're pumping me
right?
up, man. This is great. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
So what we want to do is we want to find those rough, uncut gems, and we want to, give them a little polish, sharpen them up a little bit, because we know that they're going to be incredibly valuable to companies, and that's what Academy is out to do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Helping your students, empowering your students who aren't quite ready, want to serve them, and also trying to tackle the skill gap. We have so many companies looking for basic social media skills, and they don't teach that in school. So we see an opportunity for us to start to fill some of that gap and make sure that we're filling the roles and the needs of all of our clients.
Oh, that's great, Adam. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And first off, thanks again, man, for being a part of T20 eWorld podcast and also for sponsoring this month of January. Phenomenal. I wish you all the much success. And I want to leave our listeners with one bit of advice from Adam Alpert. So this is your time. What would that advice be?
This has been a long journey. Like I said, it's been 5 years since we founded the company. The only reason we're still here today and we've given ourselves, the time to become lucky is because we never stopped believing in ourselves. And everyone else, even if they smile at you and say they like your idea, no one's going to believe in you. And the worst thing you could do is lose belief in yourself. So believe in yourself, even if you don't truly believe in yourself. Convince yourself that you can do it, that you are competent, because you are your own worst enemy and you're always inches away from death, but you're always, you're the closest you are to succeeding than you've ever been before. So don't lose self-belief. If you believe in yourself, you can accomplish anything.
Phenomenal advice, my friend. Thank you again, Adam, so much. That was just kick-ass advice. So to all our friends out there, T20 Eat Well, this is Adam Alpert and Hugo, and we are checking out.